Discover the incredible impact of a new U.S. law that unexpectedly changed 3 car brands forever. Jake stood at the entrance of his father's auto repair shop, the smell of grease and motor oil swirling around him, an aroma he had known since childhood. The rhythmic clank of wrenches echoed in his ears, but instead of comfort, it now filled him with dread. What would happen if the cars they fixed went out of style? The world was shifting, electric vehicles were taking over, and he felt like the last flicker of a candle in a storm. He thought about the pride in his father's smile when he first handed Jake a wrench. That pride was now tied to a dying legacy. Among his closest friends were souls similarly burdened. Dave, a veteran whose battle scars ran deeper than skin, shared moments of laughter with the other men over cold beers. Lisa juggled her cry for help as she raised her kids, while working double shifts just to scrape by. Tom, the retired teacher, brought hope but struggled to understand the harsh economic realities they faced. Together, they were a family, a community anchored in a world that seemed to be moving on without them. One evening, the group gathered at the shop, the air thick with uncertainty. "They're abandoning us for foreign brands," Dave muttered, frustration etching deeper lines on his forehead. "What is a guy like me supposed to do?" The question hung heavy, stroking fears that clawed at Jake's heart. He looked around at his friends, their faces weary yet determined. What if they fought together? With that thought, a spark ignited within Jake. He hesitated, heart pounding against his ribcage. Could he really do this? "We can't sit back and watch everything we know slip away. We've got to stand up for our shop, for our families." Before they could respond, adrenaline surged through him. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was the emblem of hope for something greater. He stepped towards the camera his friend Lisa had set up, sweat trickling down his brow. "Please, America, we need your support. Families like us, who believe in honest work, deserve a chance." The words flowed from Jake like water, his heart pounding with every phrase. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The video went viral. Jake watched as families from all corners of the nation shared their own stories of struggle, echoing his plea for recognition. Hope surged in his chest. They were no longer alone. But with the wave of support came waves of backlash. As corporations clashed with their dreams, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. Each day brought the heat of uncertainty, and the stakes grew higher. There would be a showdown. It was inevitable. Jake stood strong, but as he faced the community again, his voice quivered with emotion. Would his plea resonate through to the hearts of those in power? As Jake opened his mouth to deliver a final message, he couldn't shake the doubt that quaked within him. Would this be their moment of triumph, or just another footnote in the history of change? The room held its breath, and so did he, teetering on the brink of something monumental. The moment hung in the air, thick and heavy like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jake's eyes swept through the small gathering, each face reflecting a mix of hope and fear. He took a deep breath, squeezing his fists to quell the tremors racing up his arms. "We need to remind the world why American-made matters," he shouted, a mix of desperation and fervor driving his words. The room exploded into a mix of cheers and murmurs. Tom raised his hand, breaking through the rising excitement. "Jake, we can organize. We can rally our community." His voice cracked with passion, the fight illuminating his usually calm demeanor. There was a renewed energy in the air. "Right. Let us focus on spreading the word," Lisa chimed in, her usual weariness replaced by determination. "People need to hear our stories, our struggles, our pride in our work. We need to share how much it means to us." With each suggestion, Jake felt layers of doubt peel away, replaced by a growing sense of purpose. They spent the next few hours strategizing, brainstorming ways to get their message out beyond the digital screens. Dave suggested a local car show, a place where old and new could collide, where families could come together to celebrate their roots. "Let us showcase the heart of this community," he called, slamming his fist in enthusiasm. "Real cars for real people. The idea sparked something within Jake. This was about more than just their shop. It was about pride in a legacy everyone felt slipping away. The meeting stretched late into the night, laughter and camaraderie warming the chilly air. They drafted flyers, took turns designing social media posts for Jake's now-famous video, and even planned an old-fashioned barbecue to draw people in. As the dawn broke over the shop the next morning, a mix of anxiety and excitement surged within Jake. Would they rally enough support? Would anyone outside their small circle care? The room that day felt different. It held promise and the ghost of fear, swirling around like the smoke from their weekend barbecues. Days passed, and their movement slowly gained traction. Community members started to share their own stories, fueling a fire that burned brightly across social media. The hashtags took off, and soon everyone was talking about it. But with attention came scrutiny. The news stations arrived. Headlines changed. Voices rose. Jake found himself facing not only supporters, but powerful opposition. Major car manufacturers released statements claiming that they were simply modernizing for the future, a future that didn't include them. Industry giants flooded the streets with advertisements, boasting of their eco-friendly initiatives while dismissing local craftsmanship as old-fashioned. In the midst of it all, Jake often felt the weight of what they were up against. Each morning, he caught himself staring at the same grease-streaked walls that once felt like the center of his world. He remembered his father's dreams, and that made him stand a little taller. But the tension was building. With the community divided over the future of car ownership, Jake knew they needed a big event, something that would bring everyone together, something they couldn't ignore. Just when they thought the tide was turning, an unexpected visit changed everything. A politician with a smirk and a camera crew arrived, looking to capitalize on the movement. His intentions were unclear, but Jake felt the air change. What did he really want? "Are you willing to take a chance?" the politician asked, eyes glinting with ambition. Jake's heart raced. This could possibly be the turning point, or it could tear everything down. And there it was, the moment lay before him, frayed and uncertain. What would he choose? Would he risk everything on a chance, or step back and adapt to a world changing once more? The weight of the decision felt crushing, but in a flash, all he could see were the faces of his friends, his family, the community. This was their fight now, and Jake wouldn't give up without knowing the outcome. What lay ahead was unknown, but for the first time, he felt the flicker of hope transform into a flame ready to ignite. Would this be the moment they've been waiting for, or just another hurdle? Jake took a deep breath, preparing for whatever was next, knowing one thing for sure: he wouldn't back down. Not now. Not ever. And as the politician leaned closer, ready to make his pitch, everything hung in the balance. What would he say? Jake felt the weight of the moment engulf him as he stared into the politician's eager eyes. This was no time for hesitation. With his heart pounding like a drum in his chest, he found his voice. "I need to know where you stand. Are you with us?" The words slipped out, laced with urgency. The smirk still painted on the politician's face faltered for the briefest moment. The camera crew shifted their focus to the tension brewing between them, eyes glimmering as they captured the drama unfolding live. "Let me explain," he started, shuffling a stack of papers with practiced ease. "Change is inevitable. We need to move forward, not backward." Jake's resolve tightened. "But what about our community? What about the people who have built their lives around these American-made cars?" His voice rose, fueled by passion and fear of losing something irretrievable. "Those same people could benefit from modernizing our approach," the politician shot back, his smile barely concealing a hint of impatience. "I'm here to help you take your fight to new heights. Picture it, a government-backed initiative that can invest millions into transitioning local businesses like yours into the future." Jake felt a knot of fear tighten in his stomach. Was this a lifeline or a trap? He glanced at Tom, Lisa, and Dave, who stood behind him, their expressions a mix of hope and skepticism. He could almost hear their silent questions. Could they trust this man? Could he help them sustain what they loved for so long? "What's the catch?" Dave finally blurted, breaking the silence that had lingered too long. "You're not just throwing money around for free." The politician chuckled, but it was hollow. "Of course not. A small price for a great future, mostly looking for support, and a public show that you're aligned with us. It could be a win-win." Jake's mind raced. He envisioned the shop, the laughter, The sweat and tears poured into each restoration. This was more than just cars. It was legacy, family, a piece of America that felt threatened. Would aligning with this movement erode what made them unique? He could almost feel the warmth of his father's hand on his shoulder, guiding him through this moment. Let us not forget many people are losing jobs to overseas production, Jake interjected, his voice steady now. This initiative could hurt more than it helps if it means sacrificing local jobs and our craftsmanship. We want to protect what we've built. The politician's expression shifted, gears clearly turning in his mind. The stance was precarious, but Jake sensed a flicker of something in the man's gaze, maybe respect or perhaps annoyance. Whichever it was, this ridiculed effort to undermine their cause would not go unchallenged. Consider this a step toward progress, the politician countered, tone more measured now. The automotive industry is changing, Jake. Embrace it. An idea sparked in Jake's mind, igniting the fervor building within. Instead, he proposed, how about we showcase our American craftsmanship at your event? There's a community behind my shop that deserves to be seen, and we can stand together to embrace both tradition and innovation. A partnership that respects past and future. The politician's brows lifted, interest peaking. Now that's an idea, but before he could finish, the room erupted with a mix of murmurs and cheers. Jake could see it in the faces surrounding him. Hope. Whispers filled the air, cycling through the crowd. Was this a real chance to restore what was lost? He realized something essential. This was more than just about politics. It was about reclaiming pride, showing that American-made wasn't just a label, it was a heartbeat. Let us bring everyone together, Jake urged, feeling the power of unity behind him. Show them we're still here to fight for this community, for our values. That we won't just accept change without a voice. The intensity in the room shifted, crackling like wild electricity. They were building something real, a force they weren't ready to back down from. All eyes were fixed on Jake, an unspoken agreement tangling together. This was their stand. As they strategized the next steps, the politician's proposal hung precariously in the air. It was a chance to showcase everything they stood for, but trusting someone like him came with heavy risks. Would they charge forward together or become just another casualty of rapid change? Jake took a deep breath. The fight was only just beginning, and it was going to take every bit of courage they had. Jake paced the room, adrenaline coursing through him like fuel in a roaring engine. The energy was palpable. He could feel the crowd rallying around his words. Lisa rode the wave of enthusiasm, echoing his sentiment. We need to organize. Host a rally. Let people see our commitment to preserving this community, she exclaimed, her eyes bright with conviction. Tom nodded, and Dave leaned forward, energized by the momentum. We can create a platform for vendors, local artists, and even musicians. Let us make it a celebration of American ingenuity. The room buzzed with excitement as ideas fired off like sparks. But as the discussions flowed, doubts snaked into Jake's mind. What if the politician's offer was just a facade? What if they immersed themselves in this, and it all crumbled beneath them? A bead of sweat trickled down his temple, and he wiped it away, steeling his resolve. No matter what, they had to make this choice together. Let us not lose sight of our mission, Jake said, raising his hand to gather their attention. This isn't just about seizing an opportunity. We must communicate our values. We stand for craftsmanship, family, and this community. We can't let anyone exploit that for their gain. The nodding heads in agreement fortified his strength. They were unified in purpose. It wasn't just about the cars. It was about family traditions stretching back decades. About fathers passing down skills to their sons and daughters. Jake suddenly felt the full weight of the moment. It wasn't enough to capitalize on the politician's proposal. They needed to ensure the priorities of their community remained front and center. We want a seat at the table, he declared, his voice echoing against the walls, fueled by collective conviction. Let us prepare for this event and demand our story be told. Excitement erupted again as they divvied up responsibilities. Lisa took charge of outreach, planning how to invite the community in. Tom began brainstorming ways to showcase their work, and Dave looked into logistics as they divvied up the tasks. Jake felt hope blossoming inside him. But underneath, a shadow lingered. The ticking clock reminded him of the urgency. Commitments were a double-edged sword. and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were running headfirst into a storm. The politician's agenda still loomed large, casting a long shadow over their plans. Just then, a journalist approached them, microphone in hand, excitement sparking in her eyes. "Can I get a quick interview? We want to share your side of the story." Jake glanced at his friends, the nervous energy filling the room. This was the moment. The world was watching. He took a deep breath, straightened his spine, and stepped up to speak. "We are more than just a business. We're a community," he began, voice steady and clear. "This is our chance to ensure our craftsmanship and values endure." The crowd erupted in cheers. The camera flashed, capturing the moment, a snapshot of unity. But Jake felt the familiar knot in his stomach return. Would this moment of clarity spark a change, or would it remind them just how precarious their situation really was? As the atmosphere simmered with excitement and uncertainty, a chilling thought pierced through his mind. What would happen if they did find themselves at odds with the politician's hidden agenda? Just as Jake was about to voice more of his convictions to the crowd, he caught sight of the politician across the room, arms crossed and a smirk playing on his lips. That look set off alarm bells, a stark reminder that every handshake came with strings attached. Could they trust him? Or was this the moment everything they fought for started to slip away? Jake's heart raced. No turning back now. Decisions loomed large, and the fight was about to get real. What would their next move be? The stakes were rising, and it was becoming clearer by the minute that time was of the essence. Jake's pulse quickened, anxiety threading through him like a live wire. He could feel the energy shift in the crowd as they sensed the tension brewing. The politician's gaze bore into him, and he wrestled with the suffocating sensation of being cornered. "Stay cool," he whispered to himself, scanning the room. The crowd was electric with anticipation, yet Jake felt a storm brewing, fueled by uncertainty. Would their race for authenticity and communal spirit be met with genuine support or manipulation? Lisa leaned closer, sensing his unease. "Are you all right?" she asked softly, her eyes searching his for an answer. Her unwavering belief in their mission was a comforting balm, easing some of the pressure in his chest. "Just thinking about the next steps. We need to make sure we're not just talking, but truly influencing." Jake forced a smile, his heart not quite in it. With renewed determination, he stepped back out to the crowd. "I want to open the floor to your ideas," he said, his voice stronger than before. "What matters most to you? What do you want to see from us?" A woman in the front row stood up, a fire igniting in her eyes. "I've seen what this community can achieve when we collaborate. I want to share what we make display our craftsmanship beyond just the cars. Let us show them our heart." The cheers that erupted felt like music to Jake's ears. It was a reminder of why they were doing this: the people, the passion, the pride. "Let us have workshops where kids can learn," Tom added. "We can develop their skills while reinforcing our values." Excitement spread through the crowd like wildfire. Ideas bounced from person to person, and Jake could barely keep pace with the energy igniting in the room. But then, something shifted. The journalist, still with her microphone, sidled up to the politician, her voice low but audible. Jake caught a snippet of the conversation, words like offer and settlement slipping into the air. He narrowed his eyes, feeling an all-too-familiar dread start to creep in. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Dave's expression darken. "Jake, I think she's trying to get him on her side. What if he's just using the event to better his image?" Jake's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Panic flooded him, but he pushed it down. "No," he stated firmly, "we need to be prepared. If he thinks he can pull the strings, he needs to know we're not puppets." He looked around. Faces shone with hope, ready to embrace change, but they remained blissfully unaware of the undercurrents surging through the room. "Let us not veer from our course," Jake called out, raising his voice above the din. "We're here to prove that our community comes first. We won't let anyone hijack our vision." "That's right." Lisa backed him, her voice cutting through the noise. "We create together, not just as individuals, but as a family." People clapped and cheered, but Jake felt a cold sweat trickle down his back. They had ignited something beautiful, yet the shadows loomed ever closer. As the discussions continued, Jake pulled Tom and Lisa aside. "We need a plan, a contingency. If the politician tries to distort our words, we have to be ready." "Agreed," Tom replied, his brow furrowed. "But how do we maintain our authenticity and combat whatever he is concocting?" Jake took a breath, his mind racing. We'll gather everyone again tomorrow. Prepare our message. We need clarity and unity. If this becomes a battle, we fight from a place of strength, not fear. With every passing minute, the urgency of their mission weighed heavier on him. They couldn't just float through this unscathed. The stakes were climbing, and with each new committee formed, every banner designed, every voice raised, a transformative moment approached. But the nagging question wouldn't leave him. What would be left when the dust settled? The resilience of their community might be enough to withstand this trial, or perhaps it would drive a wedge between them. As he glanced one last time at the politician, the doubt echoed louder in his mind. Would they stand strong or fold under pressure? Jake took a deep breath. The next day would change everything. But how? The next day arrived with a haze of uncertainty, the morning sun casting shadows that mirrored Jake's inner turmoil. He stood in the community hall, the air thick with anticipation and stale coffee. Tables were scattered about, adorned with colorful banners showcasing their mission, each one a promise of unity and change. Lisa entered first, her stride confident despite the tension that still hung over them. "Ready?" she asked, her smile a beacon in the chaos. "I guess as ready as we'll ever be," Jake replied, forcing a grin. He surveyed the growing crowd. People filtered in, each face a story, a heartbeat connected to the pulse of their collective cause. This was their moment. As the room filled, Jake caught Tom's eye across the floor. Tom raised a hand, signaling it was time to gather everyone. The noise quieted, and all heads turned toward the front. Jake felt the weight of eyes on him, some filled with hope, others with doubt. "We're here today to chart our course," Jake began, his voice steady. "Yesterday, we shared dreams. Today, we take action. We can't let outside forces dictate our narrative. We must speak with one voice." Cheers erupted from the crowd, a chorus blending with the rhythm of his racing heart. He felt the familiar surge of warmth wash over him, yet the creeping dread from the day before still niggled at the back of his mind. Just as he was about to elaborate, the door swung open. The politician entered, flanked by the journalist. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Jake felt a pit form in his stomach. This was the intrusion he feared. The crowd's murmurs intensified, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Was he here to join their cause or undermine it? "Sorry for being late," the politician announced, his tone casual, but Jake noted the sharpness of his smile. "I wanted to catch a glimpse of this vibrant community." The crowd's mixed reactions were palpable. Some were ready to welcome him, while others wore skepticism like armor. "Jake," the politician continued, stepping forward, "I think we can work together. I have some ideas that might align with your goals." His gaze was penetrating, and Jake braced himself. "Collaborate?" Jake echoed, keeping his expression neutral. "With what you said yesterday? Or is this a way for you to save face?" The tension in the room thickened. Jake could see the confusion flicker across the crowd. Some looked to him for guidance. Others felt the weight of the moment. "Let's just talk about solutions," the politician replied smoothly, yet Jake sensed a predatory edge to his demeanor. Lisa cleared her throat. "What does that look like?" After all, yesterday was about community-driven change, not political agendas. The politician smiled, but his eyes darkened. What's wrong with a little compromise? There's strength in partnerships. Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped in an elaborate game of chess. "We're not looking for deals, we're building a foundation," he countered, fueled by a fire within. "Our community's voice matters more than your image." A ripple of applause spread throughout the crowd, reinforcing Jake's stance. Yet, he noticed the journalist feverishly jotting down notes, her eyes darting between him and the politician. This was her moment to capture the divide, a twist of narrative that could unravel everything he held dear. The politician's demeanor shifted, his faux geniality starting to fade. "You'll find I have resources that could change the dynamics of this endeavor," he said, an edge creeping into his tone. "Don't underestimate what I can offer." Jake felt it a moment charged with expectation, the stakes rising higher. "What's the cost? Our community or your agenda?" He shot back. The silence hung thick, punctuated only by the flickering overhead lights. Everyone was holding their breath, entranced by the unfolding confrontation. Dave stepped forward, frowning. "This isn't just about today, it's about our future. So if it means standing up against the likes of you, then we will." Jake's heart was pounding, but this was more than just a verbal sparring match. They were standing on the edge of something monumental, and he hoped they wouldn't fall. This chaos felt like it could either pull them together or tear them apart. Just then, the crowd erupted into shouts of support, rallying around Jake as he faced off against the realm of political gamesmanship. Jake marveled at the collective strength surging through them. Yet a final question lingered ominously. Would their unity hold against the pressure or fracture under the weight of manipulation? As the shouting grew, and the air thickened with tension, Jake squared his shoulders. The battle for their community's soul was in full swing, yet new revelations were about to unfold. What were the true motivations behind the politicians' charm? What lay beneath the surface was just starting to surface. Jake's eyes darted around the room, looking for a sign that this firestorm could be tamed. The atmosphere was electric, crackling with the energy of a community poised for change, yet riddled with uncertainty. He could feel the weight of every gaze, some inspired, some uncertain, all waiting for him to lead. "Listen," he called out, raising his voice above the din. "I didn't bring you all here for a political dog and pony show." The crowd quieted, and he took a breath, glancing at Lisa. Her expression showed both concern and encouragement, fueling him further. "This is about us, about our hopes, our dreams, and our right to steer our own future." His voice resonated through the hall, tugging on heartstrings. The politician's smile faltered, just for a moment, showing the cracks beneath his polished exterior. "Don't you think it's a bit naive to think you can do this without allies? Governance is about compromise, Jake. You need influence," he countered, his tone slipping into something sharper. "Influence that comes at what cost?" Jake pressed, each word laden with defiance. "Do we mold our vision around your agenda? Or do we stand firm as a united front? We're not pawns in your game." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd as those who had felt voiceless began to find their voice. They stood a little taller, arms crossed and brows furrowed as they considered the choices laid before them. "I see your point," the politician began, a semblance of calm returning to his demeanor. "But imagine the milestones we could achieve together." "Together?" Lisa interjected, stepping beside Jake. Her voice was steady, filled with conviction. "You've done nothing but exploit communities like ours for years. If you're truly different, prove it." The politician's eyes darkened, aggression swirling just beneath the surface. "Enough posturing. I can make this community thrive, but it means playing by broader, tougher rules." Jake's chest tightened. At what point do we become so hungry for progress that we lose ourselves? "It's about integrity, our integrity." The crowd began to chant, "Integrity, integrity." Their voices mingled in a rising chorus, lifting the room's energy, turning it into a wave of unity that rolled in Jake's direction. And then, something unexpected happened. From the back of the room, an elderly woman stood up, her voice fragile but clear. "I remember when my husband and I fought for this town decades ago. We didn't compromise our values, and we can't start now. If we do, what will we have left?" A hush fell over the hall as the memories of generations danced in that moment, weaving through the air. Solidarity surged within Jake. Here they were, a tapestry of stories interwoven, drawn together by a common thread of hope and determination. Today, Jake called out, emboldened by the courage of his community, "We stand together for something bigger, something pure. No backroom deals, no political machinations. Just us, united for our future, for our children." As the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, Jake locked eyes with Lisa. Her pride beamed as she leaned in to whisper softly, "You did it." But deep down, Jake knew this wasn't over. The politician's confrontation was only the beginning. He could sense the storm brewing beneath the surface. The journalist had once again turned her attention toward him. With her pen poised, he felt their moment slipping into a narrative he could not control. "Hold on," Jake shouted, raising his hands to calm the crowd. But the energy was electric, swelling with excitement and determination. "We still need real plans, next steps. Let's not lose this momentum." Yet just as the clamor subsided, the politician interjected one last time, his expression dark and calculating. "You think you're winning here? This is just a skirmish, Jake. You haven't seen what I can really do." And in that instant, a chill swept through the hall. The air cracked with tension, and Jake felt the gaze of the crowd shift, uncertainty snaking its way back. He could sense a deeper game being played. What hidden forces were moving behind the curtain? What were the stakes they were all really up against? As Jake prepared to address his community again, he couldn't shake the feeling that far more than just a battle for their message was at stake. Something much bigger loomed ahead, and it threatened to unravel everything they had fought for. Could they withstand the storm that was coming? Or would they have to dig deeper than ever before for their collective strength? Jake stood before the crowd, a wave of emotions washing over him. A quiet panic tugged at his heart. The politician's unsettling words echoed in his mind, threatening to drown out the fervor they'd just ignited. He inhaled sharply, his chest tightening as he glanced at Lisa. Her face was a mix of pride and new worry, and he could tell she sensed the shift in energy too. His voice broke the silence, strained yet resolute. "Let us not forget the power we hold," he shouted, rallying every ounce of conviction inside him. "We are the heartbeat of this community. Together, we can challenge any force that seeks to divide us." The crowd's energy fluctuated, some responding to his call with renewed fervor, while others still hesitated under the weight of uncertainty. Jake could see it in their faces, the flickers of fear mingled with hope. He knew that what waited ahead wasn't just about him standing on a stage, giving a speech. It was about each person feeling remembered and valued. A young father, gripping his child's hand, called out, "What do we do next, Jake?" His voice carried both hope and desperation. "We think," Jake responded, eyes sweeping across the assembly. "We strategize. We don't allow ourselves to be puppets on a string. We draw a map showing our destination, a vision for our community, shaped by every single one of you." "Yeah," someone yelled from the back, prompting a ripple of agreement. But the thought of their challenges loomed large in Jake's mind. He knew the politician wouldn't back down easily. This wasn't just about being bold. It was about being smart. The elderly woman who had spoken earlier stood again, her presence commanding attention. "Jake, I've seen fights lost and won. We need to rally our skills, band together as neighbors and friends. Can we do that?" A swell of determination washed over Jake. "Absolutely," he replied firmly. "But we need a plan. We need to put everything on the table. Let us start by gathering our ideas after today. Every voice matters." Heads nodding, murmurs of agreement spread through the audience. Jake could sense a shift, like a butterfly's wings beating stronger with each heartbeat of unison. But just as the crowd began to buzz with ideas and possibilities, the politician interrupted again, his voice laced with a mocking tone. "You think a few speeches can shield you from what has to come? A united front doesn't hold water against real power." Jake felt a wave of anger swell inside him. The politician's arrogance, his dismissive tone, lit a fire beneath Jake's skin. "Power without people is hollow," he shouted back. "We will not be intimidated. Believe in the strength of what we can accomplish." The audience burst into spirited applause, their cheers echoing loud and clear. But amidst the cheers, Jake noticed a flicker in the politician's eyes, a glint of something cold. Warning bells rang in his head. Deep inside, he knew the man didn't truly care about their community. Power was his only agenda, and Jake sensed the intensity building. As the meeting wrapped up, the excitement begun to swirl into plans for their next gathering, but Jake remained on edge. The looming confrontation felt like a storm cloud just waiting to burst. What had he stirred up? With community allies around him, he knew they could stand strong, but vulnerability pulsed beneath the surface. The future was unknown, and as he exchanged hugs and handshakes with his neighbors, a question hung heavily. How much would they need to sacrifice to protect their vision? It wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about heart. And Jake could feel it deep within him. What they built could be dismantled in the blink of an eye. He turned to leave. A voice echoed from the back of the room, one he expected. "Let us find out how deep this rabbit hole goes." Jake froze, tension prickling up his spine. Whatever lay ahead, he knew it would test every fiber of their resolve. Would they rise to the occasion, or would the shadows of power engulf them? Jake's heart raced as he faced the crowd slowly dispersing around him. Whispers fluttered through the air, a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The voice from the back of the room still echoed in his mind, lingering like the unsettling chill of a winter's breeze. Who had spoken? What did they mean by the rabbit hole? He turned to Lisa, who stood beside him, her expression a blend of pride and confusion. "Did you hear that?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "What does it mean?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't know. But I feel like something big is rattling under the surface." Jake nodded, allowing the weight of the moment to settle on his shoulders. He knew change was coming, and it might be more than they were prepared for. He stepped away from the stage, directing his gaze toward the closing doors of the community center. Shadows danced around the edges, thickening with uncertainty as they walked outside. Jake noticed a few stragglers lingering behind. One of them caught his attention, the elderly woman who had spoken earlier. Her presence carried a weight that demanded respect. "Jake," she called, her voice quivering slightly. "We need to gather more than just ideas. We need to rally our strength, our resources. If that politician is serious, we must be too." He stepped closer, intrigued. "What do you propose?" "Meet me tonight at the diner," she suggested, her eyes locking onto his. "We can bring others. This fight won't be easy, but we can prepare ourselves for what's coming." A chill raced down Jake's spine. He could feel the tension building like a coiled spring. "I'll be there," he answered, and watched as she nodded, satisfaction mingled with concern flickering in her gaze as she turned to leave. That evening, the diner was warm and buzzing with conversations. The scent of coffee and fried food hung in the air, wrapping around Jake like an old, comforting blanket. As he entered, the sight of familiar faces brought him a sense of relief. He felt a little less alone. People trickled in, each bringing their own stories, worries, and, strangely enough, a sense of urgency. They gathered around a corner table, voices low but vibrant, as if they were discussing the weather instead of how to take on a powerful politician. The elderly woman, whose name Jake learned was Ruth, stood at the head of the table. "This is about our future," she began, her voice steady. "We need to share everything we know, our resources, our connections. If we don't, we risk losing everything." Jake listened intently. The weight of her words struck him like a hammer. He could see the determination etched on the faces around him, fueled by fear, but mixed with a strong undercurrent of hope. "Ruth's right," Jake said as he looked from one face to another. "This is our chance to band together. Let us create a network. We can't be the only ones feeling this threat. We can reach out to others." As ideas began to flow, so did the energy in the room. They mapped connections, sharing insights and skills, sparking hope with plans that felt just barely out of reach. A man in the back raised his hand. "What happens if it doesn't work? What if we do everything, and it still falls apart?" Silence fell heavy, and Jake felt the weight of doubt. But then a voice filled the room. It was Lisa, her calm demeanor grounding the worries floating around. "If we don't try, we've already lost." The conversation reignited, the flames of resolve growing brighter. Jake felt the pulse of their unity, a sensation like embers stoking a fire. But deep within, the nagging question remained. What if it wasn't enough? What if the storm they were brewing was already outmatched? As the night wore on, Jake glanced around the diner, noting all the determined faces. The clock ticked louder, urgency pressing down like an anvil. They were on the edge of something vast, and as he stepped outside with Lisa beside him later that night, he knew the true battle had just begun, a confrontation with shadows lurking just beyond the horizon. Jake turned to Lisa. "Do you think we're ready for this?" She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "We better be, because the stakes are higher than we think." What lay ahead would test everything they had come together to build. Would their collective strength take root, or would it be crushed beneath the weight of unseen forces? The days that followed were a whirlwind. The community rallied, their passion ignited like 1,000 tiny flames coming together to form a roaring fire. Jake felt buoyed by the energy around him. Every meeting, every conversation pushed the momentum forward. They were planning rallies, workshops, car shows, and even a community showcase where everyone would bring out their cars, families would set up tents, and stories would be shared. Hope pulsated in the air. Each person brought something unique. Community leaders offered to donate their time. Local businesses signed on to promote the importance of American-made goods, and families invested their voices. Even the children were involved, dreaming up slogans to paint on banners. "America's heart beats here," rang out from one corner, while another child shouted, "We're here to stay." But just as quickly as hope blossomed, cracks began to form. The politician continued his barrage of media appearances, claiming to champion progress while slipping in veiled threats about economic repercussions. Doubt crept in. Jake stood firm, heart pounding as he faced the crowd once more. They're trying to divide us, folks. But deep down, they underestimate our connection. Let us illuminate what they cannot see. Cheers erupted, but behind the thunderous applause loomed lingering uncertainty. Was it enough? Days blurred into one another, and suddenly, the rally day had arrived. Jake looked around the makeshift event site, a mix of excitement and dread swirling inside him. Banners flapped in the gentle breeze, families gathered, laughter mingled with the smell of barbecues wafting through the air. It should have felt celebratory, but the tension nagged like an unfinished thought. As the event kicked off, Jake took to the stage. His heart raced, the crowd's murmurs resonating in his chest. With every passing second, he felt the weight of expectation. This isn't just for us. This is for everyone who believes that craftsmanship matters, tradition matters, and our community matters. The cheers were electric, but Jake sought eyes in the crowd, searching for Lisa, Tom, and Dave. They were his anchors. Together, we have built something. They think it's a game, but it's our lives. He shouted, gripping the podium tighter, his palms slick with sweat. The air sparked with energy and emotion, palpable and raw. But just as hope rose again, the sound of tires screeching tore through the jubilations. Panic rippled across the crowd. The politician rolled in flanked by a convoy of sleek, shiny cars, symbols of his power, poised like a fortress. Cameras clicked, the air thick with the sensation of a showdown. He stepped out, the confident smile of a politician plastered on his face. Look at what progress looks like, people. He boomed, gesturing grandly to the foreign cars. Jake felt his stomach drop. Was this a bold statement or an outright slap in the face? The crowd simmered. They're trying to drown us out, but we won't let them. Jake shouted to his friends, determination coursing through him. He couldn't let this be their moment of defeat. With a deep breath, Jake leaped from the stage and moved into the throng. We need to remind ourselves, let us show them why we're here. He called for calm, guiding the people back under the banners they created together. The energy shifted once more. As chants of American made, American proud, filled the air, Jake felt the butterflies in his stomach come alive. He took to a makeshift mic once more. Looks like today is all about choices. Tell me, what matters more, a car's shiny exterior or the heart behind it? The roar that followed was colossal. Courage poured into Jake, the crowd's voices unifying like an orchestra crescendoing into a collaborative symphony. The chaos faded. The truth remained, this was their legacy. As excitement rippled through the crowd, Jake caught a flash of movement peripherally. It was Ruth, signaling him with urgency to follow her. Come over here, she said, her voice firm. The journalist is here. She wants to hear your story. Jake felt hope flutter. Let us give her something to write about. The journalist approached, pen poised and expectant. You've ignited something great here, Jake. What do you want the world to see? Let them know that this community is proud, resilient, and heart-based. Jake replied, his voice ringing clear. It's not just business. It's about tradition, craftsmanship, and togetherness. As the sun began to set, illuminating the moment with golden rays, Jake stepped back, watching families embrace and friends laugh. The fear that had once gripped him faded away, leaving only resolve. They stood together, facing the storm head-on. Weeks later, news outlets buzzed with headlines celebrating local craftsmanship as towns like theirs began to openly support American-made products. Their voice had echoed far and wide. The tides had shifted. It wasn't just about cars. It was about family, community, and heritage. Jake looked out at the community gathering, knowing this was only the beginning. The fight had forged new connections, strengthened bonds, and turned shadows into light. He exchanged knowing looks with Lisa, Tom, and Dave, a sense of unity unfurling between them. They would protect what mattered most because together they were unstoppable. This transformation had been a testament to resilience and belonging. And with that thought, a fire ignited within, once more ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now, or you'll miss out on these incredible stories. If you're inspired, leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts on this journey of transformation. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who understand the importance of community and courage.